Christopher was just, such a sweet, sweet boy, very caring, always doing anything to make anyone smile. He loved to learn. He had such an enormous level of curiosity. You could never feed him enough information. I remember as a toddler, we'd be going to the library and all the other kids would be in the fictional story section, and I constantly had to go to nonfiction for Christopher because we would go on weeks of studying the solar system, dinosaurs, reptiles, everything under the sun. He just had an enormous drive to learn. You could never feed him enough. He was always just full of energy. He was amazing. He was so brave through the whole process, and that's how he held himself through all the treatments, even the dying process. He had such a strong faith, such a connection with God, and it showed. It showed to anyone that was there to witness it and to be with him. He had a deeper connection, and it gave him an enormous amount of peace.
Oh, my son Jack was the brightest of bright lights. He had a joy and a wisdom about him that we recognized at a very, very young age. So when he was diagnosed with cancer, it shouldn't have come as a surprise to us, but in some respects it did. The level of maturity that he showed, the joy and happiness that he carried with him always, the fact that he didn't want to be treated like a baby, the fact that he wanted to make things better for the people around him, the other kids that he always showed compassion and a great love for. And one day he sat with a little girl and they had a wide variety of candy in front of them, provided by the child life specialist. And they started with Nerds, being the very smallest of the candies. And he said, swallow a Nerd. And so they had glasses of water and he worked with her until she could swallow a Nerd. And we worked up to mini M&Ms and we went to regular M&Ms and we finished with Mike and Ike's. And the very next day, he sat for hours with her. And yes, he was eating candy, but they were swallowing candy and he was trying to encourage her. And the very next day, this mother of this young girl came up to me with tears in her eyes and she hugged me and she said, my daughter swallowed her pills this morning for the first time with no tears, no apprehension, and she said, and it was Jack that helped her do that. You have a remarkable son.
The grief once you lose a child, there's not a lot of other people out there that can even understand that spin of it. So we had the friendship going through the treatments, working with the different trials, talking to each other, bouncing ideas off each other of how to, what direction we should go. And then, unfortunately, we had to go through the dying process with both of our boys. And, we were in touch with one another, bouncing thoughts, feelings, how to even handle, the hospice, the palliative care with them. To now we're in the phase of, we're still grieving, and we probably always will be. Our boys were precious. I was stunned when Christopher was first diagnosed and the need for blood throughout childhood cancer, and pretty much every childhood cancer patient, to get through their treatment cycle. They get knocked down so badly with their counts and their hemoglobin and their white blood cells. They have to have blood to be able to pull through each round of cancer treatment. And that was a shock to me to see that pretty much a desperate need for blood each and every month.
It became something that seemed like an easy decision to make, to say, let's host a blood drive and let's do this in memory of Jack and Christopher. And the response to the blood drive has been overwhelming. People that didn't know either one of our boys who are willing to come because of their stories and give blood for the first time, overcoming a fear. So I think that there are so many negative things about cancer, and certainly in losing a child, there is nothing worse. But if we can do something to perhaps prevent that from happening to somebody else, then that's what we need to do. And that's how we need to persevere, and that's the message that we want to be able to send to our kids. It is just one prick. It is just a little bit of time. Should the need arise, whether it's a cancer diagnosis or it is a tragic accident, that blood will be there because somebody was willing to give of themselves.